Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Rantin Review Entertainment. Yes, this is time for the spoiler review for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, or as I'm calling it right now, the weirdest Mother's Day movie that there ever has been on the face of the planet. It's not a coincidence, I believe, that this movie was released during Mother's Day weekend, because a lot of this movie has a lot to do with motherhood. But before we get into all of this, I want to remind you guys that, as in with most of my videos on most of my channels, I have a lot of free goodies down in the description box for you guys. You can get some free crypto from Coinbase by using the affiliate links down in the description box below. We also have the ability for you to get up to 2 to 4 free stocks from Robinhood and Webull by signing up with either one of those. Those stocks could be worth anywhere from $3,000 to $3,000 depending on the platform. So definitely check some of that stuff out in the description box below and get yourself some free stuff. So this is the spoiler review talk. So if you haven't seen the Multiverse of Madness and you don't want to be spoiled, then you might want to save this video for later. Hit that little save for later button on YouTube. Or if you have seen the movie and you're kind of scratching your head about a lot of stuff going on, I'll try to address some things that some people might not have picked up on in watching the movie. But again, a quick recap of the film. It's basically a film where we start off with Doctor Strange, or a variant of Doctor Strange. This variant is known as Defender Strange. And Defender Strange is with America Chavez in the space between spaces. And they're going after the book of Vishanti, not the book of Ashanti. The book of Vishanti. They're being chased by this demon that's got a bunch of runes on it. Somehow they get to this point where Doctor Strange, or I should say Defender Strange, realizes that he can't really hold this beast back and he needs America Chavez's power, but in order to do it, he might wind up killing her. She's like, but we're friends. He's like, yeah, but in the grand calculus of the loop, and he winds up getting impaled, which leads to his death, but not before he helps save America, and she goes through one of her star portals, which these star portals can transport you between different places in the multiverse, different universes within the multiverse. And we're going to use realm and multiverse and dimension, and it's going to be interchangeable because it looks like Marvel's doing it interchangeably anyway, but we're going to be running loose and fast with those words. They all don't mean the same thing, but you'll get the general idea. Doctor Strange is at a wedding for Christine, and as bold as he is, he sits there at this woman's wedding and goes to her, man, you know what, I wish we had worked out. Like, that's some balls on you, dude, to be going to some woman's wedding with her husband. But again, she said her husband was a big fan of his, so he probably wouldn't have cared. That's right, Christine, you married a cuck. Anyway, through a series of events, Doctor Strange and Wong wind up saving America Chavez from this monster that's trying to get her. We then find out that she has this power, this ability to be able to travel the multiverse, to go to multiple different dimensions. Strange and Wong don't really believe her at first, and there's a couple of funny little interactions there between Wong and the fact that because Strange was gone for 5 years, that Wong became the Sorcerer Supreme in his absence and still is, and there's a whole bowing joke that goes on with that. But they find the body of Defender Strange and bury it and everything else. This leads us to Doctor Strange talking about Wanda, and a lot of people were kind of confused by this part, but Wanda was conjuring up another hex like she did in WandaVision to be this idealistic place. But once all of that was stripped away, we saw the fact that Wanda, in fact, was using the Darkhold, which she also got in WandaVision. And Doctor Strange realized that it's Wanda who's been going after America Chavez. So we're right into it from the beginning. And from there on out, it's just crazy, visually crazy, cameo crazy stuff all over the place in this really wild 2-hour ride in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, it's reported that the Sam Raimi cut, who's the director of the film, there's like 40 more minutes of this movie, which it did seem like there were some things that they probably could have fleshed out more, or some things that I wanted them to get more into depth with, but maybe you'll get that in an extended version when the DVD or digital version comes out. Well, let's talk about the cameos. So the big cameos come in halfway through the movie where we get to meet the Illuminati. Now, this is something that Marvel comic book fans have been talking about and speculating coming to the MCU for quite some time now. The original lineup is not the same one that you see in this movie, but the Illuminati is supposed to be one of the most powerful super groups for good in the entirety of Marvel Comics history, and has some of the most powerful people in it, including Charles Xavier and Tony Stark and so on and so forth. Namor, who wasn't in this one, by the way. But in this version, in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, we transport to a different dimension where the Illuminati were the ones that took on Thanos and defeated Thanos, sacrificing Doctor Strange, or their version of Doctor Strange, or so we thought. We found out that Baron Mordo, who is kind of not a... He's kind of a frenemy, but not really a frenemy. Just his threat was kind of reduced in this film, actually. This variant of him, he sits on the board, although Doctor Strange, our Doctor Strange, kind of hints that Mordo may have given that version of Doctor Strange the Darkhold to corrupt him in the first place, but I wonder if they're going to play on that in the future film, maybe not. In this version, we have Rambo as Captain Marvel and not Miss Danvers. So there was a big switch there, which I thought was kind of interesting. We also have not Captain America, but Captain Carter. Kind of similar to the Captain Carter you saw in the What If series on Disney. We have John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, which that one was so shocked, because a lot of people wondered if they do that, and they did, and it's like there was such a cheer. It's one of the loudest cheers in the viewings that I saw. We also have Black Bolt, which is, I believe it's the same actor. I never watched the Inhuman show, but I think it's the same actor from the failed ABC Marvel Cinematic Universe show, The Inhumans, that just kind of but Black Bolt had been talked about for a long time. Kevin Feige always wanted to get the Inhumans in the MCU, and I think the whole split with the TV side and that messed it all up. But we do get to see one of the Inhumans, the Inhuman, Black Bolt, in this one, and Professor Charles Xavier, Patrick Stewart once again playing the role. And in this time, they even played the little cue of music from the 90s animated show, because this version looked very much like the 90s animated show, all the way with the yellow hovering wheelchair that he was in that cartoon. You've got Patrick Stewart playing Charles Xavier in this movie, and that was pretty awesome. Unfortunately, none of them survived this move. Wanda does come in and she winds up wrecking shop. She kills almost all of them. The only people that are left, the only person that's left, I think, on the council is Mordo at the end of it all, because she snaps Charles Xavier's neck. She turns Mr. Fantastic into Twizzlers and pops his brain. She has Black Bolt, and they take from The Matrix, or if you're a little bit older, from the Twilight Zone, the movie, and takes away his mouth. And as soon as he grunts about it, it blows his own brains out, which that was pretty graphic. Captain Carter gets chopped in half, and we even get Rambo's version of Captain Marvel crushed underneath a statue of somebody, and that was very disturbing scene. That's the most hardcore scene in the entire film. I think that might be something that might turn off some people who are a little bit sensitive, but that was pretty crazy. A lot of people are asking about the two books, the Darkhold and the Book of the Vishanti. Now at the end of this, those books are gone. So the Vishanti book, it looks like it was set on fire by the Scarlet Witch when they were in that pocket dimension, and they finally got the thing, the big MacGuffin that turned out to be nothing, which is a little weird, but she burned it, or at least a couple pages flew off of it. Now I did notice that one of the pages that was burning off of it had a big star, which is the same kind of star that America Chavez has and uses to travel through the multiverse, so I'm not sure if that's going to come back in the future or not. But at the end, of course, in the conclusion, Wanda, she ruins the actual Darkhold, that temple that she was in, which is controlled by a demon that they hinted to and mentioned a lot in the movie, and I'm not sure if that's where they're going with the next Doctor Strange or something else in the future, maybe even a Scarlet Witch independent movie, that could be a possibility. But her bringing down that entire temple, some people I did see were a bit confused about that, and the reason is that temple is where all the other books came from. So if that temple doesn't exist, then all the various versions of the Darkhold through all the different multiverses all burned up, which is why we saw it burned up in front of Doctor Strange and Christine near the end. Speaking of Doctor Strange and Christine near the end, the confrontation, first off, the music battle between Sinister Strange and our Doctor Strange was absolutely fantastic. It's something that I didn't know I wanted until I saw it, and when I saw it, I was absolutely tickled pink by it. But beyond that confrontation between the two of them may also hint to some of the future, but it was kind of like the 616, I'll call him, our Doctor Strange, looking at what he possibly could be if he kept going down the road that they were going. In fact, this variant of himself was very much like him. They shared the same story about their sister, that died in the ice, which they don't talk about too much. They also talked about how at the wedding, Christine had said to him and asked him, "Are you happy?" And Strange said yes. And then Sinister Strange says after that, "And we came back home and wondered why we lied." So I think that's what would happen to our Doctor Strange if he kept going, if like he hit a wrong path somewhere in the future. And it was really interesting the way they, with Sinister Strange and with the zombie, quote unquote zombie Strange that we got, where basically our Doctor Strange he dreamwalks, which is, there's so much to explain in this movie. He dreamwalks into the dead body of this Doctor Strange we saw at the beginning, which was Defender Strange, which then becomes Zombie Strange, and then he's got to fight the Souls of the Damned and all this other stuff. It's very interesting that a lot of these versions of Doctor Strange we saw in the What If series, and a lot of people were suspecting because of the trailers that, oh, that's from the What If series, but actually, that's not the Zombie Strange from the What If series. It's something different. That's not the same Sinister Strange. Is not the same Strange Supreme or Darker Strange, whatever you want to call them, from the What If show either. Those are not the same versions of Doctor Strange. It's just interesting that they kind of led you to believe that in the trailers, and it turns out that wasn't quite what we thought it was. Of course, a lot of people want to know if Wanda is dead. I don't think Wanda is dead. I mean, obviously, Elizabeth Olsen's under contract for more movies, so she's going to be back. I do wonder if it's going to be her Scarlet Witch having her own solo movie, and if she's going to have to kind of answer for destroying that temple to the demon that made it, or something else is going to go on, who knows. I did like the fact that they tied up the whole thing from WandaVision with Tommy and her sons, basically, and I love what they said about it at the end, that she had done all these things. And yes, in this movie, Wanda is one of the most terrifying villains, not only in the MCU, but I've seen in big screen, big budget movies in a long time, especially when she's chasing them down a hallway, straight out of a horror film. Thank you, Sam Raimi. But I don't think she's done quite yet. And the other side of that too is another reason I don't think that's the end of Wanda is that we didn't get any of the White Vision. Remember White Vision from WandaVision? He's still running around out there somewhere. And I'm actually kind of surprised he wasn't in this movie at all, outside of one minor reference at the beginning of it. So I do think there's a lot more coming down the line for Wanda, Scarlet Witch in the future. I wouldn't worry about it too much. America Chavez is obviously going to have I don't know if she's going to have her own show on Disney Plus, or they're going to do a solo movie with her, but the character came off really well. An obvious track that they're going to try to go to is her finding her two mothers. So whether or not that's going to happen in the future, I mean, that's almost a guarantee. It's almost too easy. But then again, you did kind of think that this Doctor Strange to Baron Mordo, given what happened in the first Doctor Strange, he would have been the main villain in this, but it turns out that he wasn't. So it could be that she's looking for her parents in the next incarnation, the next time we see America Chavez. It could not be. Charlize Theron showing up as Clea and that's the name of the character shoot in the post-credit scene, or the mid-credit scene after the movie. In the comic books, Clea is actually Doctor Strange's love interest. In fact, I think they were married in the comic books, and she is also, however, related to Dormammu. In fact, if you don't remember the first Doctor Strange, Dormammu have come to barter. Now, and again, this is according to the comics. It doesn't mean it's the way it's going to be in the movies, but I think she is his niece, if I'm not mistaken. She's the niece of Dormammu, and in the comics also, Doctor Strange has a relationship with her. So her coming in saying there's an incursion and his presence is required, she did open up the portal, and if you notice what was behind the portal, it was the same dark dimension that we saw in the first Doctor Strange movie. And she's like, "Are you scared?" And his third eye comes out, because of course he inherited the third eye from using the Darkhold, which there's more to explain about that, but that's kind of beyond the scope for probably another video in the future. But the main thing is that they actually have a relationship that I'm surprised that Marvel's kind of jumped forward with that, and they're probably going to go more towards Doctor Strange and Charlize Theron having some sort of relationship. Now, does that mean that Rachel McAdams' character is no longer going to be a part of Doctor Strange in the future? Possibly so, because in one way, I think there's a door open for the utopian variant of her character. They kind of flirted with the idea of that Christine and our Doctor Strange possibly having a relationship in the future, but I can also see it as a way of them kind of closing the book on that whole thing with her, and then moving his romantic interest over to Clea, who is actually his romantic interest from the comic books. Again, we'll see. Maybe Rachel McAdams doesn't want to come back. She doesn't have much to do in these movies, but who knows? You never know what's going on with these things. One big thing I did want to clear up too, and I saw a lot of people, including one of my favorite YouTubers, Jeremy Johns, getting things kind of confused over there. I've seen a couple people confused about this. Now, the word is that what happened in the Loki series is what caused all these events, but there seems to be this misconception, like I said, from certain people that think that in Loki, what they were saying is that there was one universe, and that now all these other universes sprouted up, so it doesn't make sense because of what happened in Spider-Man and because of what happened in Doctor Strange, that all these universes must have already existed anyway, so they didn't get what was going on Loki. I'll try to explain it here. It's not that there weren't multiple realities concurrently existing, and that because of what Sylvie did in the Loki series broke them all apart into their own different. That's not what happened in Loki. What they're saying is that there are multiple. The multiverse is going along in this sacred timeline where they're all just going along and doing their own thing. And what the Time Variance Authority and He Who Remains were doing was making sure that nothing happened in those timelines that would lead to branching off events where they would collide or have an incursion, as they called it, in the Multiverse of Madness. You heard the Illuminati talking about that in this movie. So they were trying to stave off these different timelines, these different realities, branching off, colliding with each other, and collapsing either one or both of them, like we saw in Sinister Strange's world in this movie. And because Sylvie did what she did in the Loki series, that now allowed for all of those branches to go off, and now you're getting all of those different realities colliding with each other because the events that would allow that to happen are no longer being held back by He Who Remains. That's what happened. It's not that those timelines didn't exist or those alternate realities didn't exist. It's that they weren't having any kind of nexus events that would possibly have them collide with each other. So think about it like this. Since Sylvie did what she did, then you get Peter Parker and Doctor Strange in the Spider-Man movie doing what they did, which caused a rift and caused the timelines and the realities to kind of cross with each other. The Time Variant Authority and He Who Remained, before Sylvie did what she did in Loki, would have prevented that from happening. They would have prevented the Ultron and the What If series from getting all the Infinity Stones and messing with the Watcher and all of that stuff that happened in there. Because of what Sylvie did, all of these events that would have been stopped by the TVA that we're seeing in these movies and these shows right now are no longer being able to be stopped by the TVA because there's just too many of them for them to stop them all. Now, where is this going? That's one of the biggest things I would also ask coming out of watching the Multiverse of Madness. Now, the big thing about it is that we've got three different things going on right now in the MCU right now in Phase 4, which I'm not so sure how these phases are working anymore. It's not like the Infinity Saga where they were kind of neat. That's like neat packages you can understand. It's a little bit looser here. But the three main places we got going on right now in the MCU is you've got the multiverse stuff, which is Loki and Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch and all of that stuff that's going on with these dimensions crossing each other and universes crossing each other in the multiverse. Then you've got kind of the grounded stuff that's going on, the military stuff with, Falcon becoming the new Captain America, him and the Winter Soldier, and what's going on with Hawkeye and Daredevil and the Kingpin now involved with that, and the new Black Widow involved with that. So that's, and the Armor Wars that's coming up soon. So that's all of this stuff over here. And then you got this third stuff over here, which is what Thor, the Guardians of the Galaxy, are going to be dealing with, and the Celestials. A lot of stuff we saw from the Eternals movie, a lot of stuff we saw in Moon Knight, which is basically dealing with gods and galactic creatures, and that's a separate thing that's going on. So how all three of these tie together, I'm not exactly sure, but we'll see. I'm sure things are going to come together more in the future. And that future, from what I can tell right now from my limited knowledge of comic books, I mean, I know a little bit, but I'm not like the super expert, but I do know enough about it to kind of see that this is seems like it's steering towards Secret Wars, or one of the versions of Secret Wars, which for those of you who are not initiated to that, is kind of like this battle planet thing where they get multiple variations from multiple dimensions all fighting each other in this big war. That might be the next Avengers movie where obviously they're setting up for it. There's going to be some sort of event that's two timelines or two realities clashing against each other, or maybe multiple ones clashing against each other. That's probably what's coming in the future, and with the big Thanos type of event that's going to cover all of the movies from here to whenever the end is going to be. That's going to be the thread that's going to run through it, like the Infinity Stones ran through the last Marvel saga. And there's probably like a ton more stuff. I know there's a ton more stuff that I haven't even scratched on in this movie. So that'll be for discussions for later on as we cover some other stuff. But I want to know what you guys think. Did you enjoy Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? If you've seen it already, if you haven't seen it already, what the hell were you doing watching this video with all these spoilers in it? And if you have any other questions about certain things that happen in the movie, or things that you found out and about the movie, or Easter eggs you spotted and I didn't point out, be sure to let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until then, I will see you guys here for more news, rumors, and reviews on the Rantin Review Entertainment. Have a good day.